Lecture 22. Economics is a highly human-centric subject. We put people at front and center and talk about how to allocate scarce resources to achieve our goals. In this lecture, I want to talk about what the world might look like if birds, rather than humans, were in charge of this allocation decision, going to give up the human-centric vision of environmental economics and instead embrace a bird's perspective. How would a bird allocate scarce resources if this bird, whether it's a bald eagle or a seagull or something, was the benevolent planner? Have to think about what birds want. I've never really spoken to a bird about this, but I'm going to presume that it's this triple. Birds want food, they want to survive, and they want to reproduce. So this is sort of simple sociobiology, back to E.O. Wilson stuff. And with scarce resources, whether that's worms or soil, materials to build a nest, these birds would allocate these materials, trading off the production possibilities across these three goals and allocate resources to achieve these goals. So if you're a bird who eats worms, and if somehow all the world's worms vanish, you're going to become extinct. A benevolent bird planner would recognize this and would take actions to have harvest worms. But of course, we don't live in this world. So we know Dickens' Tale of Two Cities. I want to tell a tale of two birds. Was going to crack the bad pun of having tail as T-A-I-L. So on your left, you see a bird covered in oil. And that bird doesn't look too happy. It's got a big schnoz. On the right, you see what I think is a bald eagle soaring on a blue sky day. It looks pretty happy. And so what we're supposed to think as environmentalists is the picture to the right is sort of celebrating the bird's good life, and the picture to the left is this nasty environmental externality. No oil company intentionally dumped this oil on the bird, but an unintended byproduct of some shipping oil. There must have been an oil spill. Perhaps the tanker was not double-hulled, and this single-hulled oil tanker, if I making up these facts correctly, it must have had an accident, and this bird got soiled. So this is reminiscent of that Prince William Sound with the Exxon spill, the Valdez oil spill in 1989, or the recent BP spill in the Gulf of Mexico. So repeatedly, nature has been blanketed in oil. The ecological impact of oil spills, a negative externality from capitalism. So, my final slide for today. In the New York Times last week, there was an article about La Jolla, California, which apparently stinks because of birds. And Mitt Romney lives there. It's been claimed that, and UC San Diego's there, that a very nice piece of real estate is being nailed bad by birds. And Andrew Harmon wrote this letter to the New York Times that I think is worth spending a last minute on. And let me read it to you and pontificate a little. He writes, "Some perspective may be in order regarding the smelly quandary on the cliffs of La Jolla. This nuisance caused by seabirds doesn't bode well for fine dining in the area, I'm sure. But the cormorants, gulls, and other species that have prompted groans and pinched noses face declining coastal habitat, continual oil spill hazards, toxic algae blooms, plastic pollution, discarded fishing tackle, and wanton cruelty by humans." And so he is putting, this guy's article triggered this talk for today of trying to put people in the shoes of a bird. That yes, the New York Times had reported that the birds are imposing an externality on the people, but he is trying to counter and turn the glass around and saying, hey, people have been imposing externalities on these birds. Finally, while I certainly hope that the community is spared regulatory limbo, that's La Jolla, and finds a solution that works for both business and wildlife, I can't help but wish that the public's awareness of what these birds go through to survive were as heightened as the odor wafting off the bluffs. And so suppose that we were enlightened about the challenges birds face. How would we change our game? So he may be hoping that this is a teachable moment, that we will come up with ways to put less plastics in the ocean. We will come up with ways to double hull ships so that there's fewer oil spills. So when you educate people about the animal cruelty, does that actually change anyone's behavior, or is out of sight, out of mind? Can you educate people so that they support costly public policies to reduce the impacts on birds? I think people will talk a good game and say that they care, but to a revealed preference economist, the proof is in the pudding, and I'd like to see some research on that. It would be terrific if we lived in a world where when you educate people, they then internalize externalities. This is sort of this voluntary restraint view, but I'm not sure that this holds so broadly, but I wish I'm wrong about that.